Brian. Can I call you Brian?
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want, Alex. Just don't call me late for anything.
Okay, Jeffrey, I wanted to have a conversation today. I've been thinking a lot about childhood. As a man on the verge of fatherhood, you start to wonder and remember about your own childhood and some of the strange experiences that might have shaped you into the person you are now. And Jeremy, I assume a lot happened in your childhood to shape you for the creature that I see before me now.
I was indeed a child for many years before I was an adult, as most people do. Also, have you made the fatherhood thing public yet? I don't know if it's I don't know if you were trying to keep it private, but
Philip, I'm doing that now. This is my coming out.
This is your big public announcement. Yeah, it's happening. We're having another TWOS cast baby.
Yep, that's right. And Brian, though, I'm sorry, it's not yours.
I had a feeling deep down in my heart of hearts that it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
I always hoped, but
we can work it out, though. We can figure this out, if we just go to some counseling and...
Well, listen, it's just, I'm fine with batting 500, so the next one can be mine.
Okay.
And we have the technology, so...
We do. We can make it more Brian than ever.
Yes.
Okay. Quick thought that I was having the other day. Brian, what was your biggest childhood fear? Like I know some kids are afraid of the dark, some kids are afraid of heights. That's just a normal fear, but what would you have to pick was yours?
My childhood fear was I was deathly afraid of grizzly bears, even though I lived, as everyone knows, out in the middle of the ocean where there are no grizzly bears.
That's right. You live at what's your address again?
My address is 2 Pacific Ocean. Wow. I couldn't get the 1. That had already been claimed.
Dang. Well, you were close though.
At one point when I was a child, I forget exactly how old I was. I want to say maybe around 8 or 9, maybe 10. I had a book that was illustrated versions of these, ghost stories and folk tales that are spooky and everything. And it had a version of the monkey's paw, because every spooky story collection has that because it's a good spooky story, right? But this one had specifically for the scene, I guess spoilers for the monkey's paw if you somehow are living in 2022 listening to this and you don't know the story of the monkey's paw. But for that point in the story where the son has died in the tragic accident and then the father wishes, or the mother, I don't remember which one, but whoever, one of the parents wishes for the son to come home, and then the son comes home, but it's him after the accident and his body's all fucked up, right? This book had this super, I don't know that it even was in retrospect a super creepy or fucked up illustration of that scene, but it was weirdly graphic compared to the illustrations in the rest of the book of hey, here's this, young man approaching his house through the woods with this mangled body, and he's missing an arm and all of just gruesomely maimed and injured. And I remember that specific illustration really sticking with me in my mind and bothering me, and the idea specifically of that sort of messed up, wounded, maimed, body that may or may not even be under the control of the person, whose body it is, or else possessed by this, otherworldly force of the monkey's paw, the, genie wishes, whatever. And the idea of that sort of stumbling out of the woods, approaching your house with the intent to come inside and everything. That really threw me as a kid. I was super creeped out by that and freaked out by that. And I know that I had those nightmares and night terrors for a little bit of a decent period after that. And that was around the time that they were getting really bad. And I ended up sort of, with my mom's help mostly, but also myself looking into like lucid dreaming.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I became a lucid dreamer as a defense mechanism against my own imagination haunting me.
You did, you pulled an Insidious, but without the personal haunting aspect of it.
I haven't actually watched Insidious yet, so spoilers for that. But that's on me. That movie is also that's been around for a while. I don't think it counts as a spoiler at that point. Yeah, the statute of limitations on that is way up.
Yeah. I'm not going to apologize. You know, it's interesting how that sort of imagery sticks with us as kids. I had something similar with imagery where it my like big major childhood fear that I could think of was stemmed from, you know, that very first Resident Evil game, the first instance where you see the zombie and the zombie's like biting someone and it turns around and you're right, it's like the full FMV and you see the zombie, right, and it's all crackly and decaying. Yeah, like I remember going to a friend's house for a sleepover and his older brother was playing and I saw that. Like it was at that scene. I remember walking into the front door and looking over at the TV and the zombie turning around, and like that stuck with me for a long time in my childhood, to the point where I think like I don't think I slept the night of that sleepover. Like I was so freaked out by the weird decrepit image of that zombie.
I think that was such an effective moment in that game. Like it was a really good and well done, you know, moment of the zombie sort of turning around, and you see for the first time, you know, in that at the time, I guess we could consider like that high definition shot, right? Yeah. Of, you know, this is the zombie and this is this, you know, corpse that is feasting on another corpse or whatever. And I feel like that would be especially effective if you are like walking into a room and glance at the TV and that's what happens to be there. Like that would be very spooky.
Yeah. I lost like some serious amount of sleep, to the point where like I remember I went home from that sleepover and then maybe like a couple weeks later, it was my birthday and I had a bunch of friends stay over the night. And of course we're all kids. So we tried telling scary stories to each other, and no one, I think, said a scary story that necessarily scared me. But when I did go to sleep, I kept thinking about that freaking zombie turning around, and so I was like, I just could not sleep that whole night. And so like I if I was going to bed with the lights off and I could see the closet door being a little bit open in my room, I'd imagine a zombie like just standing idly in the closet. Like I just thought, I'm gonna, as soon as I go to sleep, this thing's gonna go like, yes, time to feast on this child and step out and eat him. And so like I'd be up and I'd be staring at the closet, and I, you know, little kid brain, you close the closet and you get under the covers and that's it. Perfect. The shield is up. Yeah. The layer of protection is now in place that I can sleep and dream safely.
There's got to be something about zombies in particular for kids, because I remember now, I also definitely like zombies like sort of freaked me out too. The idea of them, and I still occasionally have zombie dreams, and like that sensation of, you know, just sort of the slow, creepy, you know, walking corpses and all that. There's something about when they're done well that's very deeply unsettling, and I think if you see that in childhood, it can really stick with you.
You know, I feel like there's a point where I like really got a handle on my fear of zombies, and then like 28 days later came out, and it's just like, no, they run now.
Like, oh, that's so much worse.
Yeah,
you've made them like the one thing that you had against them is you made it go away. That's not great.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, great. I guess there's plenty of reason for me to be horrified again. I'm back in it, baby. Back in, afraid of these zombies.
Well, and it's neat to think about, you know, how that affects things, because I know that's I don't know if you know this. I don't know, you know, how many people know this in general. That's the whole story behind Max Brooks, who did like the Zombie Survival Guide and World War Z.
Yeah, I read both of those, actually. It was fun.
He, like, as a child all the way into some of his early adult years, was like terrified of zombies. He was like horrified by the concept of them and the idea of them. And it like spooked him so much that he ended up like taking that and decided to write those as sort of a breakdown of the idea of zombies and like, well, how would you survive? How would you deal with this? How would the world react and deal with this? And it was almost like a sort of self-therapy way for him to like work through that in the writing of those, which I think is really fascinating.
You know, the main flaw that I found with the zombie survival guide was, to a certain extent, was how serious it took itself. Right after a while, it really was like reading a manual as opposed to reading a book.
Yeah, the zombie survival guide in particular, I think, becomes very either goofy or like too dry to some extent, because it really is presenting itself as this like ultra serious, you know, like, listen, zombies are real, zombies are out there, and you need to do these things specifically in order to survive. And it's like, well, okay, you know.
You know what, Max Brooks? I'm not interested. So formative things are your childhood fears.
Yeah, right.
I feel like the other formative thing as a kid is your first, like your cursory introduction to curse words. Yeah, what was your first instance and experience with curse words?
Not necessarily first instance with curse words in general,
or just like a quote unquote bad word.
My siblings and my cousins and I very early on that like, hey, these are words that like the adults use sometimes and they're naughty words and the adults use them, but they shouldn't use them. And if you use them, you're going to get in trouble. The school I went to when I was really young was in this very sort of like small town, New England, and was very sort of like sheltered in a lot of ways. The kids did not like swear in school at all. The HE double hockey sticks thing, like that was like our swearing if we ever did that, right?
Whoa.
4th grade, I was sitting with some of my friends in the cafeteria, and one of the guys who like had the reputation in the friend group, like he was the one who like bullshitted us. He would like make shit up, you know, whatever. So he comes in one day and he's like, hey guys, you got to know this. I learned like a new swear word at home.
Okay.
And of course, we're all sitting there as kids like, yeah, you've got our attention. What's going on? What's the word? What's the deal?
Like, what could it be?
And he's like, I heard, like, my dad said it and my mom got really mad at him because I heard it, but I heard the word. So now I know it. We're okay. What's the word? And he's like, so apparently fuck is a swear word.
Damn, he went straight to the top. Skipped a lot of stepstones.
We all like knew the basic swear words, right? But yeah, that was like the big one, and he overheard it. And I was sitting there and he's saying this, and all the other guys were like, oh my God, like, oh geez, that's so cool. You learned this new swear word. And I'm sitting there and I'm like arguing with my friends pretty loudly. Fuck is not a swear word. There is no way. Fuck is not a word. You made that up. You are just making a sound with your mouth. I don't remember when it was that I actually like finally got confirmation for real of like, no, that's a real word. It's just one of those memories that sticks with me. And I can picture it so clearly. There were like 4 or 5 of us sitting at this table. I'm like, no way. Fuck isn't a word. That's not a real word. And again, I don't know how no adults overheard that and, you know, hauled me off to detention or the principal's office or something.
Or maybe they did and they just, you know, just like, all right, no, let him go.
I have worked with kids or, you know, classrooms, and you don't want to laugh in front of the kids. So sometimes all you can do is hold it together and just let it go. Be like, I'll do something about this later. Yep. Right now, I got to just let it happen.
I have a similar story where I went to go hang out with my neighbor when I was in like elementary school. I had another kid across the street and we'd hang out all the time. And I go over to his house one day and he goes, Alex, you're a masturbator. And I went, what? I don't know what that means. And he immediately runs away when he says it. And so I'm a kid and I hear this word and I think master. Am I like a master of something? Am I master of the animals? But I couldn't piece it together.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So it's just me as like a 7 or 8 year old running around this neighbor's house. yelling at my neighbor, "What's a masturbator? What's a masturbator?"
Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't think I got an answer, but I do remember laughter and a lot of confusion at the start. It probably was more than a couple of years before I found out what the hell that meant.
Oh, I'm sure. How old were you at the time?
I had to be like 8, 9 at the latest.
Oh my God. So this is like, this is something that is well before, like, that would be
right. Like I wonder how my neighbor friend apparently came across this.
Yeah, that's so.
But yeah, he like just the mental image of baby Alex pretty much running around, not even my own home with my own family. This is a complete different family, just small child running around a house yelling, "What's a masturbator? What's a masturbator?" And
oh my God, that's
and
incredible.
No answers being given or clarification. I'm sure they saw the situation and just went, "No, just kick this one down the road. he'll take that home and someone else will deal with that."
That's something that we are not good at, because you can't explain that to a child that isn't yours. You cannot go into that. That is not something that any sane human being is going to tackle.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation when the neighbor kid is yelling, "What's a masturbator?" inside your home.
Yeah, like, listen, you gotta go home. You gotta leave right now.
Look, kid.
And if you need to ask that question, you can ask your parents, but do not tell them how it came up.
By the way, don't ever come back here ever again.
I was over at the Andersons' house and someone called me a masturbator. I don't know what that means.
I do distinctly remember yelling, "What am I master of?"
All right, that's... Oh, Alex.
I have great faith for my own child.
It was years later when we learned.
He was the chosen one.
Oh my God. The master of all baiters.
The master of all baiting. Okay. I feel like we all have some sort of like early pet and like dumb stories related to a pet. So do you have any particular memory that stands out to you of a childhood pet and it embodying the definition of derp in some way?
None of my childhood pets, I would say, were very derpy. I feel like I sort of lucked out with like just really, really good pets when I was a kid.
Well, how about I got a couple of pet stories?
Yeah, if you've got one, you take the lead on this.
Okay. I remember when I was much, much younger. All of these involve pet death, by the way. It's a trigger warning, I should say.
Good. So did mine, but I opted not to share those, but continue by all means.
Yeah, it's another thing that shapes you as a kid.
Yeah, that first taste of mortality.
My mom would always get like one thing you could get. I'm sure this is probably common in a bunch of other places. You could buy little baby chicks, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'd be like different colors or something. I don't know if they'd like spray paint these things. I have no idea.
Chickens come in different colors.
No, but I mean they'd like be purple or something, like not normal color. Like
yeah, no, that sounds like a dye job.
Yeah, it's unethical. Obviously,
that sounds like animal abuse. Yeah,
yeah, unethical. But obviously, don't blame me, the 3-year-old with a baby chick.
Blame Alex's mom.
Yeah, blame my mom. I remember I was going through a photo album and it has a bunch of pictures of me as a baby, and one of the photos is me, little me, running in my backyard, and it's taken from inside my house, looking out into the backyard door, which was a large glass door, a sliding glass door, and I'm running across it from right to left. And there's a tale happening in this photo because it's me, and then to the left of me is a cat. And then to the left of the cat is the baby chick.
Oh no.
And I maybe like the trauma blocked itself out in my head. I have no memory. Obviously that baby chick did not survive, but it's just such a strange moment that someone caught in this photo. I'm assuming one of my parents caught in this photo. It's just like, all right, well, and I don't remember having many baby chicks after that, and probably for good reason.
You only go through so many experiences like that before the family does decide, like, hey, hey, maybe we don't do this again.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, he's going to start remembering.
So the other one I have, again, trigger warning, pet death. Why all my stories involve pet death, I don't know. Also, when we were younger, we all had rabbits, and I have a brother and a sister, and all three of us had rabbits. My rabbit passed away in a different story, which actually is sad, so I'm not going to go into that. Yeah. But my brothers and sisters survived for a little bit longer. And as we got older, I remember the two rabbits passing away, and I for the life of me couldn't remember the circumstance, and neither could my brother and sister, oddly enough. I remember at one point we asked my mom, what happened to the two rabbits? And she goes, oh, you know what? You all forgot to bring them inside, and there was a bad storm, and the rabbits passed away in the storm. And we're like, oh, that's awful. We neglected our pets, right? That's terrible.
Yeah, like that's, you know.
And that was the story for years. Years, Brian.
Until finally the truth came out.
4 months ago, Brian.
I absolutely adore people sharing the lies that they were told as children and that were kept up, and then the real story finally comes out.
Brian, 4 months ago, I am visiting with family on a nearby beach here in South Texas, and I bring up the rabbits, and I'm telling the story to my family. It's just I didn't even remember how it came up, but it came up, and I'm telling them like, oh yeah, my brother and sister, they left them out in the rain and they passed away. And my mom goes, that's not what happened to those rabbits. Like, wait, what? What happened to those rabbits? They're like, oh, yeah. It started raining. Your brother and sister brought them inside, put them in their little cages, and then put them in the garage. And I was like, okay, how did they die?
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, yeah, your dad came home, and as he pulled into the garage, he didn't see the cages.
Oh, my God.
but okay, awful, right? Awful. But what's the more awful part is the fact that my mom, instead of like, oh, the rabbits passed away, how unfortunate, was like, oh, yeah, I know the strat. I'm going to blame it on them and let them
I'll just say they neglected.
I'll just say that they killed them and let them think that for years.
Holy shit, that's incredible.
Brian, my mouth dropped at that family visit.
Oh,
I
sure.
was like, what? And I remember I went home and I was driving on the way back from the island, and I called my brother and sister. I was like, this is it. The truth has finally come out. It wasn't your fault. And then we all cried together. No, we didn't. We were in absolute shock that the strategy was just like, oh, yeah, we'll just tell them that they did it instead of making up something less traumatic.
That is amazing. And you know what the great thing about that story is, Alex?
Yeah.
Is that it's feeding you with the fuel. Now you get to turn around and do that to your kids if you want to. Now you know the strategy.
I'm looking forward to bestowing some sort of small generational trauma onto my son, who I will announce his name is Spare Parts Rodriguez.
Spare Parts Rodriguez.
Yep. He's going to be a good, healthy boy for as long as I need him to be.
Absolutely.
For when I must harvest.
And he's going to neglectfully kill many rabbits.
There was no neglect, right? The rabbits did not suffer from neglect. Set the record straight, not on our part, at least.
Well, there was, but it's on the part of a man in a car.
Okay, and that's our show, everybody. This was Two Stocks. We didn't even do the intro that we usually do. We just kind of went into it.
Listen, normally we were trying out new things with this episode. Instead of the daddy issues, we just went into childhood issues. But then in the end, I guess, did come back to your father again. So I don't know.
Oh, my God. How does that keep happening? Don't answer that. It's okay.
Someday we will get all of this sorted out, and then the podcast will end.
Or it'll truly begin.
Ooh.
Anyway, yeah, this was Two's Talks, the one where we just kind of shoot the shit for a little bit. We also host another show called 2 Weeks, 1 Shot. That's the other main show. I think right now we are playing Burn Bright with a special guest GM who is Mike Daniel from 19 Hits the Dragon. Go ahead and check out that adventure. It's a big fun time where I'm a talking space slug. Brian is a talking trash can who's a giant robot. John is a bunch of bees.
Pretty much.
And Harold is Idris Elba in Cats. So if that sounds like something, then go listen to it.
It may not sound like anything, and yet
it's everything.
Definitely give it a listen.
All right. We will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.